Hey there, folks, and welcome back to another episode of Tips for the Trades podcast. I'm your guide through the world of workplace business wonders, Jeremy Lowe, and today I'm on a mission to help you turn your problem employees into your most valuable assets. Yep, you heard it correctly. Tips to make even the toughest problem employee better. So let's dive into this transformative journey, shall we? In our episode entitled, Turning the Tides, Transforming Problem Employees into Golden Assets. Look, running a home service business, whether you're dealing with leaky pipes, green pools, frozen condensers, dead garage door openers, or electrical mysteries, is no small task. Among all owners, though, regardless of all their other business issues, one thing that really stands out as a major challenge today is problem employees. I hear this from contractors all over the country, that not only is getting good help a major problem, it's followed closely by then having to deal with the troubled or quote-unquote toxic employee that seemed to be a constant source of irritation. Maybe the employee in question is always behind on their work, never getting projects done on time, or even getting them over the goal line at all. Perhaps they struggle to follow the rules or communicate. Maybe they do shoddy or sloppy work, are frequently AWOL, lash out at fellow coworkers, negatively affecting other employee morale, are the huge gossip mill in the company, always in conflict with customers, causing complaints because of their attitudes. Maybe they bully or undermine their coworkers, or perhaps their attitude could just use a major adjustment. Well, fear not. I've got a toolbox of strategies to help identify the difference between two types of employees and turn the tide on our troubled employees. Let's first start by getting our terminology straight. The terms toxic employee and troubled employee are often used interchangeably in the workplace, but they do denote slight differences in the behaviors and impacts of the employee. So I want to look at each type of employee separately. Let's start with a toxic employee. A toxic employee is someone whose behavior is consistently negative and has the potential to contaminate the workplace environment. Now, this negativity isn't limited to just lacking productivity or not following the rules. It also encompasses a broader array of behavior that can include things like gossiping, bullying, manipulation, and undermining not only colleagues, but the company's values as well. The toxicity from such an employee can spread and affect the morale, productivity, and overall well-being of coworkers. And this impact of a toxic employee is not just on tasks and performance, but it deeply affects the workplace culture and the emotional health of other employees. Toxic employees create an environment where distrust, anxiety, and tensions flourish, which ultimately can lead to increased turnover and difficulties in teamwork and collaboration, which obviously affects efficiency and profitability. Now let's compare that to the troubled employee, or also known as the problem employee. A trouble or problem employee, on the other hand, from a toxic employee, might be seen as someone who causes difficulties mainly through their work performance or non-compliance with rules and policies, rather than through negative interpersonal behaviors. This could include issues like not meeting deadlines, poor quality work, frequent absences, not adhering to company policies, or showing resistance to both feedback and desired improvement. Being a problem employee does not necessarily mean that that person is bringing toxicity into the workplace environment. Their challenges are often more isolated to their individual performance or adherence to rules. And addressing these issues may not require addressing a broader cultural impact that a toxic employee would bring to your company. The issue with a problem employee is generally more about their professional conduct and often can be rectified with targeted feedback, training, or even disciplinary actions, whereas a toxic employee may not be salvageable and then will need to be cut out like a festering cancer. So just remember, we're primarily addressing the problem employee today. In another podcast in the future, we'll talk about toxic employees, but the same basic ground rules apply to dealing with both problem employees as well as with toxic employees. And if you have a truly problem employee and fail to correct the issue in a timely manner, believe me, it can rapidly lead to that employee becoming toxic, which is the last thing we want in our company. So, how can we deal with that problem employee, the one that is possibly circling the drain of toxicity? First things first, remember you're the captain of the ship, and as such, it's up to you to take charge. So first, start with identifying the root cause of the problems. Now, before we jump to conclusions and make them walk the plank, we need to understand what's beneath the surface. Is it a skill gap? Is there some type of personal turmoil in their life affecting their work? Or is it just a case of the bad attitude blues? I mean, face it, everyone has an off day, and with the external stressors facing all of us, we as owners or managers may not be aware of the fact that one bad day for a struggling employee can extend into weeks if they're not given help. It's all about understanding, not confrontation. So make dedicated time in your busy schedule to meet with your employee. Have a heart-to-heart. Let them know that you care. Conduct these meetings in private, not in the hallway and not in their desk in front of other teammates. Now, an effective way to get and keep their attention during this discussion is get them out of the work environment. Take them out for breakfast one morning, perhaps, or lunch. Get them out of the office and on a neutral ground where they may be more comfortable in opening up to you as a friend about their problems than strictly as the boss in the office. This gesture of kindness in showing them personal, uninterrupted attention will go a long way into the employee better accepting and dealing with what may be a difficult conversation. And you are proving that you have their best interest at heart and aren't just interested in chewing them out or reprimanding them. Approach a problem like a dentist feeling an ailing tooth. He first starts with a little pain medicine, a little Novocaine to dull the pain before just drilling right into the problem. So consider complimenting the troubled crewmate on what they do that is right before you address the problem or attitude that you as a captain can't have on your ship. Next up, we need to set clear expectations. It's almost like drawing a map for buried treasure where X marks the spot. This is where we want them to go. But hey, we also have a responsibility to mark where the pitfalls are to make their journey easier. Be clear about what you expect in terms of performance and behaviors and what you will not accept, the pitfalls. Whatever the problems are that you see that they're having that need rectified. Then set a date to check back and review their progress. Knowing where the goalposts are make it easier for everyone to score. But before you send them on their way, make sure to ask if they have the tools they need to row their boat, so to speak, to avoid the pitfalls to success. Telling an employee simply to improve, but not giving them the tools and help they need to deliver those things when they run up against roadblocks is self-defeating, and it demoralizes both them and their shipmates who see them struggle. Sending an employee to fix an issue that they themselves are ill-equipped to handle is only going to make a bad situation with a problem employee worse. This then brings us to our next point. Some problem employees might just need a bit of wind in their sails. That's where training and support come in. Whether it's steering them towards time management courses or polishing their customer service cannonballs, the targeted training can help them turn their ship around. An employee may have accepted more responsibility than they can manage without having the needed skill set and now be too embarrassed to admit they need help. Or they may have skills but they really need to be polished off. Just like on a ship, they polish the brass bell all the time so it doesn't tarnish with neglect. We need to train for the specific problem or defect that an employee is facing. But first, go back to step 1 and ensure you understand the root problem causing the employee's unwanted behavior so that the training is targeted and effective. Once you offer training, then mentor them proactively to make sure they're applying that training to get back on course. We can't just wash our hands and say, okay, here you go take this training and you'll do better. We've got to check back with them. We've got to follow through to see not only that they took the training, but that the training is effective. But let's not forget about the sea that our employees sail in by helping them foster a positive work environment. A ship's crew thrives in calmer waters, having a good wind. But sailing a ship with sails is not easy. It requires constant work from everybody on the deck and direction and encouragement from the captain for the best results. Helping your shipmates pull on the same end of the rope by knowing the end goals, by celebrating as a group victories, and addressing conflicts promptly helps build a positive work environment and supports the calm seas of business success. It's your responsibility, if you have a problem employee, to acknowledge that fact and to deal with it in a way that builds confidence in other workmates that you are interested in the employee's long-term best interest in your organization. This then carries over to company culture, making it stronger. Remember though, one rotten apple can spoil the bunch, so you have to keep your deck clean of toxicity. Do not allow a festering problem with an employee to eventually spoil your barrel of employees by allowing them to turn toxic. Deal with issues promptly before the fruit starts to rot, so to speak. If an employee has a problem with another employee and it doesn't get rectified quickly between them, you are going to have to step in and intervene. There's no place for a toxic employee in your company, no matter how good they may perform. If their attitude doesn't match your culture, then make a replacement. The good news is most employees that we deal with are not toxic, simply problem employees that can become more of a problem if we don't deal with them quickly and proactively. By fostering positive relationships, you can motivate a problem employee to become a proactive team player and avoid the painful decision to de-hire the sailor if they become toxic by your ignoring the problem and hoping that it rectifies itself. Another thing we need to do is continually provide constructive feedback. It's the breakfast of champion, folks. It's not about pointing fingers at what an employee is doing wrong, but guiding them back on the right course. You may need to help them understand how their individual actions fit into the grand voyage of your business mission. Take the time to celebrate their wins, even small wins. Offer encouragement and, when needed, guidance to improve. Think about it this way. When a large cruise ship must make a turn to dock itself, it has to start its turn much sooner and farther away from the dock than a small fishing boat due to its big momentum and size. So in the same manner, allow leeway for slow-moving employees. It's hard to change entrenched habits, and we're more interested in continued forward progress to the right course, not a just sharp, quick turn. Give your employee ample time to make a course correction. And as long as you see the course starting to move in the right direction, offer commendation where possible. Offer constructive criticism if necessary, but remember, it's about forward progress. It's about growth, not humiliation of rubbing an employee's nose in the dirt about the fact that they have a problem. Now, if the seas remain rough and your employee still is troubled, it might be time for a PIP, or a Performance Improvement Plan, or also known as a Personal Improvement Plan. Think of this as a navigational chart that outlines the steps back to smooth sailing in calm water. It's a structured way to document what the employee needs to do, provide clear goals, and to document the progress. In other words, here's where we want you to be in so many weeks, and create milestones that make step improvement slowly, allowing the employee to change their course of direction. Just like we turn slowly with that cruise ship, make continual improvement benchmarks to the final goal. Setting goals and establishing a timeline for performance metrics is a major part of a performance improvement plan. It provides clarity and structure to the process of making an improvement while documenting the employee's progress. Make sure that the goals you give to an employee and the timeline that you expect is not ambiguous. You cannot say to an employee, "I expect you to get your work done on time," and leave it at that. Yes, that's true. We want the employee to get their work done on time, but it's much more beneficial in a performance improvement plan to give benchmarks, to say, "I want to see an improvement in getting your work done, and here's what we gauge improvement as being, and here's where we want you to show marked improvement." In other words, by the end of this month, I expect 90% of your paperwork to be turned in on time, and by the end of the month after, I want you to be at 100%. Also, don't forget to define what on time is. An employee's definition of when their paperwork is supposed to be turned in may be different than what you desire. So again, no ambiguity. Now, this is just an example. Obviously, you have to tailor it to your own specific set of circumstances. But what it boils down to is, if you're going to create a formal document, make sure it's clear, it outlines the steps, has a timeline, and has the measurable performance metrics to allow that employee to prove that they're making a change. To have the most impact, offer step-by-step directions in this performance improvement plan that, if followed, will ensure success. You also have to think of this as a guided second warning. It puts the employee on alert that not making the necessary changes could result in their being dropped off at the next dock to have to look for work on another ship. But we want to make sure it doesn't leave them floundering, trying to figure out how to solve the problem. Instead, you have to provide a guidebook that, if followed, should help the employee fix their issues, and perhaps part of that might be training. Don't underestimate the power of positive reinforcement with a troubled employee. Celebrate their progress. Everyone likes a good pat on the back. Whether it's a hearty, "Well done, I appreciate you got that done on time," or "Thank you for going above and beyond on this," or "I see you're making progress here, that's great, let's keep going." Recognize them amongst their crewmates. Maybe give them a certificate of achievement for making the best improvement in a short period of time. Regardless, it not only motivates the individual themselves, but sends a strong message to the rest of your crew that improvement is noticed and rewarded, and that you have the best interest of your crew at heart. One final note: if you find that you keep hiring employees who become problems, then it may be time for you to get some personal training in interviewing tactics and hiring practices. It's not a bad thing to have to get a better education ourselves. It's a great thing to be able to expand our knowledge and hone skills in areas that we may not be proficient as, especially such an important area as hiring, since employee turnover is expensive and hiring bad employees affects morale very negatively. But aye, mateys, the fact is that sometimes some tough decisions must be made. If after everything the problem employee can't adjust their sails and begin making those course corrections, it may be time for them to walk the proverbial plank. Remember, your duty is to your ship as a whole, your company, and the other crewmates. Now, here's a very important point. If a decision has been made by you that an employee is no longer a fit for the crew, then don't make the mistake of delaying the inevitable. "Oh, I'm going to wait till I find a replacement employee." Or getting rid of this employee, they do good work, when in reality, they're not. And we're using that as an excuse because of how uncomfortable it is to terminate an employee and hire a new one is truly not helping your company. Cut your losses. Suffer being shorthanded till a replacement can be found, because trust me when I tell you, it'll be much better in the long run for both your culture and your company to get rid of the problem, even if it's painful working shorthanded till a replacement can be found. A problem employee bordering on becoming toxic or beginning to become toxic is like a mutinous sailor that is just chattering in the ranks, and it can't be allowed to remain on your ship or it creates much bigger problems. You have an obligation as the captain to provide for the well-being of your crew, and that means cutting slackers and doing it quickly, not delaying the inevitable. If you do not cut slackers, fellow employees see that, and then they begin to wonder, what is the value of what I bring to work? Why can't I slack like Joe or Mary over there? It's not what we want in our company. So once a decision has been made that an employee is not going to improve, is not putting the effort in improving, get rid of them. In conclusion, transforming a problem employee isn't just wishful thinking. It's a voyage that requires your understanding, giving support and clear directions. And in many cases, it's a journey that can be successful if you follow a good plan and provide measurable metrics for improvements. I have to admit, helping a troubled or even a toxic employee is never easy, but it's not an impossible task if you give it your attention and effort. The investment we make in helping a troubled employee regain their sea legs and become a good, beneficial member of our crew, it can be rewarding. And it can also prevent us from expending additional time and effort to replace the employee and then burdening our crew with having to train that new employee. One thing to keep in mind, though, as you deal with a troubled employee, is that every crew member you hired has the potential for greatness. You saw something in them when you hired them. But it has to be when they're given the right guidance and support. So as managers, we just have to learn how to tap that potential. And that, in some cases, requires we get leadership training. We, and I say this constantly, came from service vehicles, or we came in through the family trade. That means we may be good at installing, we may be good at fixing, but we may also need to get training in such things as hiring, human resource, and leadership. These types of training will help us help our troubled employees and turn them into valuable assets. So there we have it, Captain. Turning your problem employee into an asset is simply all about navigating the rough seas with a little bit of patience, a lot of understanding, and the right strategies to keep your compass true and your spirits high as you outline what you expect from the employee, when you expect it, and how you will measure their improvement. So until next time, I'm Jeremy Lowe, the Senior Director of Training at Service Fusion Business Academy. And I encourage you to take a look at our award-winning workflow management software designed to make your company easier to manage and help your profits grow. Used today by over 8,000 companies, come see why Service Fusion is making waves in the software industry. Also, take the time to ask us about other business training courses we offer, whether you use our software or not, that are aimed at making your ship keep its course and have an easier and more efficient voyage. Now go out there and build something great. This is your trade, your business, and your legacy, so make it count. Remember, in the trades, every small improvement adds up to big results. So until next time, keep it growing, keep it efficient, keep it profitable, and keep making your business the best it can be. This is Tips for the Trades, signing off.